to my top 24 books of 2024. To start out though, I wanted to go over some of the statistics, I guess, of my reading this year, starting with the little Goodreads breakdown that you get if you participate in their reading challenges. It's just my year in books. So I read 33,120 pages. And I read 81 books this year. My longest book was Kingdom of Ash, which is 984 pages. And the shortest book was Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood, which is 73 pages. My average book length in 2024 was 408 pages. And my average rating for 2024 was 3.6 stars, which I feel like is true. I feel like I had a lot of 3 stars this year. And then I'm just gonna post a screenshot of my first review this year because I think it's kind of funny. Anyways, and then a statistic that I had to calculate myself, which I feel like is ridiculous. This is so simple. I just wanted to know how many 5 stars I had in 2024 and I had to go through and count myself. Not that it was that much work. I just think Goodreads could also do that for me. But I had 13 5-star reads this year out of 81, which I feel like is pretty good, I think. I don't know. I don't give up 5 stars like it's candy, but I also don't feel like I'm super harsh with them. Either way, I wanted to get into my list and we're gonna go from 24 to 1. The first book, my number 24 book, is Powerless by Lauren Roberts, which is insane that it's by 24 because when I finished it at the beginning of this year, I literally would have thought it was top 10. After reading the sequel Reckless, it changed my opinion on the first. Well, I guess it didn't change my opinion that much because I still really like the first book. It just kind of put a damper on the whole series for me though, but we'll get into that later. Powerless, if you don't know, is about a world. It's basically split up into people with magic and people without magic, and the king of this land wants to wipe out all the people without magic because they think that's affecting people being born with magic. So our main character, she doesn't have any magic, but she hides it from people by pretending to be a kind of like a psychic. She ends up in this trial. I don't really remember what the trial was for, but it's a really good book. I really enjoy it. I love the banter in this book. I think it's really good. The chemistry between the 2 characters is amazing, and I think it's fantastic. I still would highly recommend reading Powerless. The next book, number 23, is The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer, which is the second book in the Vancouver Storm series. So it's a little hockey romance series. And the first one behind that is really good too. But the second one is my absolute favorite. It was so good. The dynamic between the female main character and the male main character was adorable. Our main female character is like a physical therapist type of... Anyways, so she ends up working for the team, and the male main character is a hockey player. And the main male character's rival is her ex. So she's also, it's like a fake dating jealousy kind of mix-up situation. But I really enjoyed the main male character of this book. He's like classic golden retriever type of man. Next, we have Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This book kind of took me by surprise. This is the first Julie Soto book that I've read, and the setup is of 2 musicians. They're in an orchestra together, but the main male character is more famous. Like, he has another band and he also does the orchestra. But our female main character, the orchestra is like her life. Like, this is her like dream. Like, this is her goal. Like, as a musician, I thought this book was really interesting because honestly, I feel like the characters don't really talk that much. They kind of just like talk about the really important stuff and then that's it. Like, there's not a lot of small talk, I guess is what I'm saying, which was really interesting and I really enjoyed that. And I thought the 2 music main characters was really interesting. I don't think I've ever read a book like that before. And also I don't know that much about music, so it was just really entertaining to me and I really liked it. Then the next book on my list is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I read so much Ali Hazelwood this year and I'm not mad about it. She's quickly become like an auto-author for me. Like, I will read anything she writes and I love her books. This one is a little bit different from everything else she's written though. It's like just a romance book. There's like, I wouldn't even say it's rom-com, just romance, if that makes sense. I thought the connection between the characters was so cute and sweet, and the premise of it is our main female character works at this company that the main male character's company just bought out, and so she has like a lot of hesitations with the company and him, but they kind of have this connection they can't deny kind of thing. So I thought it was really good. I think about this book a lot actually. I thought it was so different for Ali Hazelwood and I really enjoyed it. The next one is also an Ali Hazelwood book, Bride. This book is so good. It's a vampire werewolf romance. So our main male character is a werewolf and he's like the alpha of his pack. He's in charge. And then our main female character is a vampire who basically was set in an arranged marriage with the werewolf by her father for some sort of alliance. And then there's a little bit of like a mystery aspect to it because our main female character's best friend disappeared And so she's trying to figure it out. She thinks it has something to do with the werewolf pack that she just got married into. So she's kind of like sneaking around trying to figure stuff out while also dealing with an arranged marriage. I think it's great. And also, I know this is really controversial because it's like a paranormal romance, but I think if you grew up reading stories on Wattpad and you were on there long enough, you eventually got to, I don't want to assume, but I want to say, like, you probably got to some sort of paranormal romance. So I didn't think it was that weird because I've read stuff like this in the past on Wattpad. Okay, the next book is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is the first book in the Rose Hill series. It's a best friend's sister trope and also single dad. So this entire series is actually single dad. In this book specifically, it's in a very unique way. It's not like a stereotypical single dad. Like he didn't even know he had a kid at the beginning. So that's really cute because you kind of see Ford form this connection with his daughter that he didn't know he had. And then Rosie, she comes back from like a big city to her small little hometown and she's like trying to find herself kind of thing. I thought this was really good. I love Elsie Silver's writing, and they have really good chemistry, and I do really enjoy the fact that they like knew each other in the past because they went to high school together. I'm really excited for the third book in this series. Okay, this is number 18, is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This book is so good. I listened to the Spotify audiobook of this and it's narrated by her, which I highly recommend because I feel like it just added so much to the story. But it's just her talking about her life and her love or her relationships and her experience with boys, especially from growing up. Like it starts when she was like in, I think, middle school, which I really, really, really like because I feel like most girls go through like the same sort of phases of like starting to have crushes and like starting to want a boyfriend kind of thing. So hearing it from someone else's perspective, but being able to relate to it so much is really something I enjoyed about the book. I think this is the first year that I read memoirs, like by myself. I'm sure I read memoirs in school, but I think this is a great book if you're not super into memoirs or you don't know if you'll like them. This one is a great one to pick up because it literally felt like I was just reading her diary, but like in a not creepy way. Number 17 is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas, which is so funny. So this is the first year that I read an entire series by Sarah J Maas because I read some of the ACOTAR books last year and I didn't enjoy them so much. So I switched to Throne of Glass and it made it to my top 24 books list. So I would definitely say I enjoyed it. This book, it did kind of rip my heart out, but in the way that I wanted it to. I don't know how much I can really say about this book, considering it's the last in a very large series. Basically, the main character is like fighting a war, I guess, against a lot of a country. Like, it's really complicated. It ripped my heart out in a good way. I don't really know how much else I can say about this, but I really enjoyed this book. Kind of the same for this book. So number 16, Empire of Storms. Absolutely amazing. This book changed my perspective on the entire series. I didn't think Throne of Glass was that great until I got to this book. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, this makes sense. The main character really started to grow on me. It's like the main group that we get perspectives from. Everyone's story started to develop a whole lot more, and I really, really fell in love with the characters and the setting in this book. Number 15 on my list is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Both of our main characters just got broken up with and they end up living together because, so our main female character, Daphne, she just got broken up with by her fiance. Her fiance cheated on her with this lady, and so she moves in with that lady's ex, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm explaining this very well, but I love all of Emily Henry's books. I think they're so amazing. I think she adds such a realness to the characters, and it's not just a strictly romance book. Like it is, but it's more personal, if that makes sense. And you get a lot more well-rounded character in her books. Number 14 is The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. So this is a series that comes after the Shades of Magic series. So we have a lot of the same characters in this book, but we also are adding another perspective from another London, and then our main character, I literally forgot her name, Tess. Our main character, Tess, she can see the threads of power, which not many people can do. I think there's only one other person in this world that can do that. And honestly, this kind of felt like just like a catch up, like with all the characters, like what's been going on since the last book in the Shades of Magic series, which I loved. I love these characters so much. I love V.E. Schwab's writing so much. I love this world so much. I could talk about it forever. I don't really know what to say. Great book. Loved it so much. Okay, number 13, Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar. It doesn't say what time period this is in, but it's in Spain a really, really long time ago. Like, I think, I have to look it up, I think. I can't, oh, okay, so it takes place during the Spanish Golden Age. I'm gonna Google when that was because I have no idea. Oh, okay. So the Spanish Golden Age was from 1492 until 1659. So it takes place somewhere during there, I'm not sure when. Our main character, Luisa, she's a servant at this house. They're richer than she is, but they're not like the richest family. And our main character, she has magic, and the lady of the house that she works at discovers that and kind of tries to use to her advantage to move up in the world, which catches the attention of some other people, which makes her participate in these games for the attention of the king. It's really good. I know that a lot of people had some mixed reviews when this first came out, because I think this came out in the summer or something like that. I definitely think it's a fall read, fall winter setting, just because it's fantasy, and I usually associate those seasons with fantasy. This was really good. The audiobook is really good with this as well. And I love Leigh Bardugo's writing, so I'm gonna read anything she writes at this point. Number 12, we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Oh, this book is so good. It's so magical and whimsical in the best way possible. So the circus moves around the world on no particular schedule, which is really interesting. And the circus is only opened at night. It's a very like mystical place. But the two main characters we have, Celia and Marco, they're both magicians that are dueling, and the setting of their duel, battleground kind of their fight, is the circus itself. It's more of like a battle of like power, not to like the death. They make the circus even better and better basically, and it eventually leads to who wins. This is a great book though. I think that Erin Morgenstern's writing in general is very magical, and I haven't read anything like this. Number 11, we have Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This book is insane in the way that I could tell you what this book is about, but it doesn't matter because the ending is so crazy. But I'm gonna tell you what it's about anyways. Piranesi is our main character. The house that he lives in is kind of separated into 3 levels. The top level is kind of overrun by birds. The middle level is where he lives. And then the 3rd level is kind of overrun by water. It's very confusing. So you're following Piranesi, discovering parts of the house and writing down information that he thinks will be useful for people that come after him, for people if they ever find his diary. There's another man in the house as well, and they meet twice a week to talk about things that they discover. And the more that Piranesi discovers the house and talks to this man, the more the plot starts to unravel basically. I'm trying to be very vague because the plot twist and what happens at the end of the book is really insane to me, and I really hope that people pick this up because it's really, really, really good. Number 10 is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I'm so excited that Sally Rooney came out with another book. She's one of my favorite authors ever. I adore everything that she writes, and this is no different. This book is fantastic. It's about 2 brothers that just recently lost their father, and one of them is a professional chess player, the other one's a lawyer. You follow them dealing with the grief of their father and also the relationships that they form and get themselves involved in. As with all Sally Rooney books, it's very character driven. There's not like a plot, I would say, besides the fact that they lost their father and they're dealing with it. But I love her writing no matter what. She writes characters that are so realistic, and especially characters that I could see myself in, so I love her books. Number 9 on my list is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, and I feel like I haven't shut up about this book recently, but I'm here again to talk about it because it's so good. Lady Macbeth is a Macbeth retelling from the perspective of Lady Macbeth. There's some magical elements to it as well. I don't particularly remember the entire premise of Macbeth, the like original story, but that didn't affect my reading experience, so don't worry if you haven't read Macbeth. But it's really interesting from Lady Macbeth's perspective because she was in an arranged marriage with Macbeth. Oh my god. Really? So this kind of gives like a voice and a character to Lady Macbeth, because I believe in the original she's not much of a character, or she doesn't have that much screen time, if you will. I don't know. And I really like her character in this book because her character in this book is a lot more clever and smart than she lets on, which I really enjoyed. So she'll sit in these meetings with these men who are plotting about war, and she's like you're in her head, and she's thinking about, you know, better ways to strategize and do these things. But yeah, I really love that book. The Spotify audiobook of it is fantastic. I highly recommend listening to it if you're gonna read it, because the narrator does Scottish accents and really just, it kind of engrosses you in the book. So I highly recommend listening to it. Number 8, I have Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I finally got around to reading the sequel to Ninth House. I love Ninth House so much. That is one of my favorite books of all time. And I was so scared to read this for so long because whenever you love a first book of a series, I feel like it's always intimidating to go to the second one because you're like, is it gonna hold up to the first one? And in my opinion, this one really does. I think this one is more character driven than plot driven than the first one, but that's okay because I love the characters so much that I want to spend time with them and I want to get to know them. So I have no issue with that, and I highly suggest reading this if you haven't but you've read Ninth House. I also just suggest Ninth House in general. But yeah, this book just as good as I thought it was gonna be. So I was really happy about that. This is where we get into some of the most shocking to me reads of the year. So this is a series I did not think I was gonna love as much as I do. And it was a real surprise to me because I decided to start reading sci-fi this year and I picked up Red Rising. And this is number 7 on my list because I adore this book. It's so interesting. I specifically wanted to start reading sci-fi because I read a lot of fantasy and I felt like it was getting very repetitive. So I branched out to a new genre and picked this one up, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. So this is a story about Darrow. He's a red, which means he's in the lowest caste system of this universe. And he gets a unique opportunity because something happens to his wife and he makes a lot of enemies. I really can't be super specific with this book because it's the first in a series. So I highly recommend checking this out if you really like fantasy. I think that you will like this book too. It gets a little confusing in certain terms because they are in space, but there's a large community that loves this series on the internet. So they have like a Wikipedia that's dedicated to Red Rising. So if you need to look something up, like it will explain it to you. So I don't want anyone to be intimidated by this. I would love more fantasy girlies to read the series because it's so good. Which leads me to number 6 on my list, Big Golden Sun by Pierce Proud. One thing I do have to say about reading this series is try not to take too long in between the books. I'm not saying you have to sit down and read the entire thing back to back, but I read Red Rising in, I think, March, and I read this book in probably September, and I had a very hard time keeping the characters straight. Although in the beginning of this one, there's a list of people's names, which is really helpful. But like I said, I used that Red Rising like Wikipedia a lot because especially at the beginning of this book, I forgot who everybody was. So basically, I'm not gonna tell you how this book starts. Well, I'm also not gonna tell you how it ends, but I will tell you that the end is absolutely insane and it makes the entire book worth it in general. Not that the entire book isn't good and only the end is good. The whole thing is good. I just mean that the ending is absolutely insane, and I had my jaw on the floor for about 3 days after I read this book. Which brings me to number 5 on my list, Morning Star by Pierce Proud. Let me tell you, the series only gets better as you go on, and like I said, the end of the last book is crazy. This entire book is crazy. And what I love especially about this book is I never knew what direction we were going in. So it added suspense, a lot of suspense. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time reading this book, and it's not even like a thriller. So I seriously can't probably talk enough about how much I love this series and how much I think other people should read it. Number 4 on my list is Educated by Tara Westover. This book changed my life in the craziest way because it's another memoir, but it's about a girl that was raised extremely religious and how that affects her life and how that affects her education and her journey to become more educated by breaking out of this community that she was raised in. Honestly, I'm like speechless at this book still because when I was reading that book, I could hardly imagine that it was a real person, like because her life is so crazy and how she was raised was so crazy. I think anybody could pick up that book and be absolutely enthralled in it. I really hope everybody picks up this book because I think it's so important to read and to get a perspective on somebody who has gotten out of that community. Honestly, just a million out of 10. Like, that book is so good. I highly, highly, highly recommend. Number 3 on my list is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. So our main character, Elspeth, has a spirit trapped in her head, and so the book is a little bit about kind of trying to get away from him, but also there's a magic system in this world that comes from cards, and she thinks collecting all these cards will help her get rid of the monster in her head. And then she runs into the captain of the guard and they kind of go on an adventure together, and it's so good. I love this book, and the audiobook is really good as well. Which leads me to my number 2 book of the year, which is Two Twisted Crown, the sequel to One Dark Window. I love this book because we get even more perspectives from the captain of the guard's cousin and another. I'm not sure how the female main character of this book relates to the female main character of the last book, which is so funny because in this book, in the blurb of this book, the 2 main characters of this book are not really even mentioned. So this is a continuation of them. Are you cleaning your butt on the internet, girl? What was I saying? Oh yeah. So the continuation of the adventure that they go on to try to collect all these cards is in this book, and it's so good. It's branded as gothic fairy tale or gothic fantasy. Love the aesthetic, the vibes. Fantastic in this book. And the characters, I love. The series is so good. I so highly recommend. So that brings us to my #1 book of the year, which is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This book is so good. I don't even know where to start. The main character of this book, Zachary, finds a book that talks about his life in like great detail. And it kind of leads him on this adventure where he's trying to figure out where this book came from. And he finds an ancient subterranean library. So if you like to read books, you're gonna love this book. This book is for book lovers. And I'm gonna give you a very, very hyper specific recommendation. My #1 favorite band of all time at the moment is Lord Huron. And if you listen to this album, it is literally this book. So this is one of my favorite albums of all time. This is one of my favorite books of all time. So this book means a lot to me. The premise is so like light and fun, but the actual book kind of talks about like contemplating like life and death and like love and relationships, and it's just the best thing in the entire world to me. So I love this book immensely. It means so much to me. It's absolutely my favorite book of this year. Possibly could be my favorite book of all time. Yeah, I could talk about this book forever. I'm not gonna do that, but I also kind of wanted to touch on some of my most disappointing reads of this year. I'm not big on getting on the internet and like being like, this book sucks, I hate this book, which is, again, not what I'm doing right now. I just wanted to share my disappointment. It's mostly, I already said it's my most disappointing reads of this year. There's nothing wrong with these books. I just was kind of sad. I thought I would like them more than I did, basically. I wanted to start that with Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I love Wild Love. It was literally on my top 24 list. I love Elsie Silver's writing. I really, really liked the main male character of this book, but I think my #1 issue with this is I don't love the one of us is famous trope, like, at all. I actually have never read a book with that trope that I liked. So, you know, my hopes for this weren't super high, but I still thought that since it was Elsie Silver, it would change my mind, because I also am not the biggest fan of single dad romances, and as I said, this entire series is single dad romances, so I thought it would be different. It just wasn't, so I was kind of sad. And I feel like all I see is people absolutely obsessed with this book on the internet, so I just wanted to post this. I also just wanted to voice my opinion and be like, hey, I didn't love this, and that's okay. A book I previously mentioned that I was really not happy with, Reckless by Lauren Roberts, because what the heck is this book? I'm so sorry. Like, I did just say I don't want to hate on books, but I do think this is the worst sequel I've ever read in my entire life. Because guess what? I don't think this book needs to exist. Like, and I'm really not trying to be harsh, but like, we actually accomplished nothing in this book. It's the same problem over and over again. People had to complain that the first book was all banter. This book is all banter. There's no plot. They're just bantering, and I hate that. Also, like, I feel like them on this journey, like starting to develop feelings or like developing their relationship is so not, like, I know the whole entire thing isn't realistic obviously, but like this is so specifically not realistic, because I feel like this book was just written so they would have more time to spend with each other, but like I still just don't think it really works. So I'm really so disappointed with this book, and I wish I had not read it. Oh, another book I wanted to talk about that was a kind of a disappointment was the third book in the Vancouver Storm series, which is The Wingman, because as I said, I really loved the second book. I think this series is so cute and fun and really good for hockey romances, but I don't think I've read a female character that is more dense than the character in this book. She's so dense it's stupid. Like, I'm like, girl, please be realistic, like, use your brain. So that honestly kind of just irritated me. I know romance books are not very realistic, but this was so unrealistic because literally the girl, it felt like she didn't use her brain ever. And that really pissed me off. So that's why I did not love that book as much. And then the last disappointing book I want to talk about is Slewfoot by Brom. And I just think that this is disappointing for me because I thought that it was going to be like a horror, like scary, like shaking in my boots kind of book. But it's very like creepy and gory. And like, it's pretty slow. Like, there's not a ton of action except for the end. And like, by the end, I mean like maybe the last like 20 pages. It's not even a good quarter of the book. So I was just sad because I kind of wanted more from this book. But I think it's just because I went in with the wrong expectations. And I'm gonna read a lot of other Brom books because I really like his writing. and I want to experience a book of his that I really like. So this one was just a personal thing. Well, I mean, obviously all of those were like personal reasons I didn't like the books, but this was just an expectation problem, I think. That is the end of my list of both books I liked and didn't like from this year. And I would love if you could comment books that you love this year, especially if it's some from my list, if we're on the same page about loving these books. Either way, because I want to hear what everyone loves this year. And thank you so much for watching my video, and I will hopefully see you next week.